Good to have you, Mr. Ambassador.
Thank you for having me, Mike.
You know, as some of the new LL routes are as a result, in part of your work as the Israeli ambassador to Washington, getting together the Abraham Accords and gaining flyover experience, flyover approval for some of those routes. It all kind of ties together. But I want to talk about your current work at the United States.
I'm sure we'll discuss the Abraham Accords as well.
Just a little bit, and it's still in the news. It's pretty incredible. It's Kafkaesque at the United Nations, the situation with the Palestinians. They have their own vision within the Secretariat, their own committee for their rights, their own so-called refugee agency, their own day of solidarity. And just a couple weeks ago, the UN General Assembly holds a Nakba Day to essentially mourn the founding of the State of Israel, and Mahmoud Abbas just spews blatant anti-Semitism. What is this infatuation at the UN with the Palestinians that they have all of these benefits and nobody ever seems to say a word about it?
Look, Mike, it was a terrible event. I think the Nakba event, it was definitely a disgraceful event that shouldn't have been held by the UN. But I will surprise you by saying that it also had some positive outcome. Because first of all, the whole world could see first time, I think, that the Palestinians don't want peace or reconciliation with the State of Israel. If Abu Mazen stands there and call the establishment of the State of Israel a catastrophe, so we all understand it's not about the 67 lines, borders, it's about the establishment of the State of Israel. And another thing, we have conducted a campaign together with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs that was very successful. We convinced almost 50 member states, among them the most influential and important member states, to boycott this shameful event. And it proved that once we are determined and we fight, you could see results even with all the terrible negative things that are happening within the UN. And you know, many years ago, our first Prime Minister, Ben-Gurion, used to call the UN in Hebrew, and he gave it a nickname, Shmum, like you say Joe Schmo here, to explain about the ineffectiveness of the UN. And we all know that the UN decisions are not legally binding. But still today, Mike, I believe that it's very important for Israel to be there, to be present, to fight, not to abandon this important arena, because of two reasons. The first reason is that, our enemies, that's their strategy. The Palestinians, they don't want peace. They want to weaponize all UN bodies against us. That's why they hold this shameful event about the Nakba. That's why they transferred the Israeli-Palestinian conflict to the International Court of Justice. That's why we see all these events taking place at the UN. And secondly, today we live in the internet era. Today we are fighting on the hearts and minds of the young generation, not only here in the United States, worldwide. So everything that is happening here in New York at the UN doesn't stay at New York. The internet reach is very quickly. So therefore, I think we should be there. My main strategy is to always be on the offensive. I'm very proud to represent Israel. I think Israel is the most moral country around the world. We shouldn't be ashamed of what we're doing. We should, expose the hypocrisy, the lies, the double standards of our enemy. And that's what I do there every day. When the Security Council was convened on our sacred Memorial Day, I decided not to allow anyone, and I don't care who, to desecrate the memory of our soldiers. So I came there, I slammed the Russian foreign minister, I lit a candle on the Security Council desk, I read the names of our fallen soldiers, and I walked out proudly of that shameful event. Thank you. And the same goes with, when they tried to boycott Israel, and Ben and Jerry's decided to boycott Judea and Samaria. So we decided to make them pay a heavy price. and we worked with U.S. state governors and other organizations to boycott, because we should boycott our boycotters and delegitimize our delegitimizers. And that's what we did against Ben & Jerry's, and they surrendered and they canceled their decision. So it's not that I'm naive. It's still an uphill battle, but the UN arena today is more important than ever. I'm determined to fight it, and I can tell you that we succeeded to erode the anti-Israeli majority. We had many successes, not only to boycott the Nakba event, but also Israel was elected first time ever to be in the Economic and Social Council. I was personally elected as the Vice President of the General Assembly. We succeeded to pass a resolution against Holocaust denial. So little by little, it's not going to happen overnight, but my vision is to shatter the anti-Israeli majority, and we, God willing, will succeed to do it.
It's definitely an uphill battle. We talk about the Palestinians, but another subject, obviously, is the Iranians. We're living in a world...
I gave you a short answer your long question.
We're living under the backdrop of continued building at the Natanz nuclear site. Iran is executing civilians, and yet, within the last few days, they were elected to the vice presidency of the General Assembly. How does this happen? How do member states see what's going on and reward this?
Obviously, many member states, because it's not against them directly, they don't see the threat that Iran poses. But it's even worse, because many other member states, they understand the threat, but they refuse to, to fight against Iran, because they prefer to, as you call it, kick the can down the road. And today, I think it's clearer than ever that the international community has been failing to block Iran, because Iran is closer than ever to becoming a nuclear power. It's not a coincidence that Saudi Arabia decided to normalize relations with Iran, its biggest Shiite enemy. It happened because of the international community weakness against Iran. And yes, the fact, what you just mentioned, that Iran was elected to be one of the next vice presidents of the General Assembly, it's insane. It shows that the world doesn't understand that Iran also needs to be diplomatically isolated. For Israel, nothing is new. I think everything we have been saying has been proven correct. In the last year, Iran attacked Ukrainian civilians with its drones, attacked Albania's cyber infrastructure. Iran has been murdering its own women and executing peaceful protesters. And Iranian militias were even attacking American troops in Iran and other Gulf states. So today it should be clearer than ever that the only formula to stop Iran is, of course, diplomatic isolation and crippling sanction, but exactly as President Roosevelt taught us, speak softly, diplomacy, it's always fine, but without a big stick, a credible military threat against the Iranian regime, there is no way that we will be able to stop such a ruthless regime. For Israel, we are hopeful that the international community would wake up, but we cannot rely on them. We are developing our own military capabilities, and I can testify here, because I was there during the talks with President Biden. The President and the administration, they respect our freedom to act in order to defend our future, and all options are on the table.
We've got the Time's Up signal there, but I haven't gotten the signal. We got to wrap up yet, so I'm going to squeeze in one more question here. I want to talk positive, the Abraham Accords. And at the UN, it's a little bit different. We see these relationships.
Nothing is really positive at the UN.
But it's almost like a clique in high school. You've got your friend that will come talk to you one-on-one, but when they're in their little clique or their group, now they shy away from you. And it's the same thing at the UN. You have the UAE, Morocco, countries like this that have established great relations one-on-one, but they'll recede into their own groupings when it comes time to vote. It's a complex situation.
So you understand it, I think, better than I do, so you can explain the crowd. No, but seriously, many times I'm being asked, how come this country that we have great bilateral relations, they still vote against us? Because people sometimes don't understand that bilateral relations are easier to develop, and obviously we see what's happening on the ground with the Abraham Accords. They are truly transforming the region, and every day we hear of new exciting stories. But the multilateral arena here at the UN is different. And why? Because the UN is a convoluted organization that member states are divided to either regional groups or religious groups like the Arab League or the Organization of Islamic Cooperation, 57 member states. So many times, like in our politics, member states, they don't vote based or according the great bilateral relations Israel has with them. They vote according to their own voting bloc's instructions and interests. And if they receive funds, money, or if their group is supporting them to UN positions, it's more important for them rather than supporting Israel. So my role at the UN, again, is to try show member states why, in order they can gain much more from collaborating with Israel. I try to convince them to break away from their groups. And by the way, I try to initiate many joint events with our new partners, the UAE, Bahrain, Morocco, and I did many events. I lit Hanukkah menorah candle with the Moroccan ambassador, and I led joint delegations to the Middle East, and I accomplished two important things. I showed the world that coexistence with Arab countries is possible when we have a willing partner, in order to show them that we don't have peace with the Palestinians because of their hate and their rejectionism. And it also helps me to show potential new partners how deep is the cooperation between our countries, and it makes it more legitimate to speak with me, to engage with me. I can tell you that I have many engagement with, I can't tell their names, but I have many meetings with new ambassadors who never agreed to meet me in the past. And last sentence, so I hope that until next year, until your next Jerusalem conference, we will be able to celebrate here not only the 76th anniversary of Israel, but also new peace accords.
In a venue that can really wear you down like the UN, it's great to see you still have such passion. Gilad Erdan,
thank you.
Israeli ambassador to the UN. Thank you.
Conference.